Hey everybody, Tony D with a final hot take of the evening. Why Donald Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Um, okay, before that, quick update on the Webcomic Factory. Pandemonium got delayed. It'll be back next week. Enjoy a strip from Miserable Comedians. And smash like and subscribe and all that and check out my books. Now, why does Donald Trump deserve the Nobel Peace Prize? Well, if Obama gets the Nobel Peace Prize for literally doing nothing, I mean, Obama basically just got elected, and it seems to me he got the Nobel Peace Prize simply because he had the potential of turning the war machine around, and he really did. He had the political capital to close down Guantanamo Bay, to bring home the troops. People would have supported him in this endeavor. If he had done that, I'd be carving his face on Mount Rushmore right now. But he didn't. He didn't. My theory has always been with Obama is he was compromised 4 days into his presidency, and he's pretty willing to be compromised. But he did a drone strike 4 days in, and he went along with the generals, and the generals say, "Oh, you got to do this, Mr. President, or else people could die." And he did it, and turned out there were no militants in the drone strike. It hit a Pakistani apartment building, which right there, he should have just said, "No, I'm not doing this." But I don't think he had the will to say no to the generals. So he did it. A bunch of women and children and old people were killed. And from then on, I think it was all downhill. That once they had him do that, it became easy for him to do it. I mean, if they actually killed what seemed like a militant, he could say, "Oh, well, my record's better now. See, I killed a bunch of people in the beginning, but later I got better at it. I got better. I got killed the right people." Nah. Trump, and look, you may disagree with me, and this is a pretty blatant endorsement of some of Trump's policies, but he is very selective in his use of force. I didn't agree with his assassination of Somali. How do you say his name? The Iranian general, Somali. I forget how to say his name. Soleimani. That was it. I disagreed the way he did that, but if you're going to use force like that, that was a pretty effective use of it. You have to admit, because he just killed that one guy and, his handlers, the people around him. And he didn't start a war. It was risky, but it worked. It worked. Shut the Iranians right up. He also was the first president to walk on the DMZ, and the peace process, whatever you think of North Korea versus South Korea, Trump moved the needle big time. They have dismantled much of the DMZ. They've taken up the mines. The soldiers on both sides have shook hands. They've dismantled a lot of the guard towers. Things are starting to come together in North and South Korea, and they are far away from starting a new war or anything like that. And this is an incredibly good thing. Now, you could argue, well, what about China? China's the aggressor in that scenario. I hate to tell you. China put its boot on the head of all the protesters. They're certainly putting their boots on the necks of the Uyghurs. So I have no sympathy for the Chinese Communist Party. They are digging their own graves, as it were. I don't think we should go to war with them, obviously. Obviously, they don't want to go to war with us. I think we would still handily beat them. But I believe that they are behind much of the mayhem that's currently going on in the United States, because they have traditionally invested a ton of money in computers, in getting spun up on the internet, and they don't have any problem with using their direct government money to infiltrate the internet and use Chinese shills. And I've seen them all over Reddit. I mean, if you go into, I believe it's World Political Cartoons, I mean, they're just straight up trying to, you know, promote China and not promote other things. And some of them are very subtle, but a lot of them are pretty blatant because they don't speak the language. They don't quite understand the culture necessarily. They understand some of it, but they don't understand the nuances. But over the years, you know, they'll get better and better at it, and they have to some extent. And it's not just Reddit. I'm sure they're doing it in other places too. And there are techniques you can use to turn people against other people, especially in a forum like Reddit. One of the techniques is not to attack someone, but to claim you are the victim of an attack from the person you're trying to discredit. And when they deny it, you know, you're in the position of the victim, and you kind of have all the control. Like they end up having to try to prove they didn't do something that didn't even happen. And it can greatly undermine people who are in a internet community like Reddit trying to push whatever agenda, and in this case they're criticizing the Chinese government. You can pretty much kneecap them for at least, if not their old followers, but a lot of their new followers will question, ooh, well, maybe I shouldn't support this guy. Is he racist? What's his deal? I mean, this other guy's saying he did all these terrible things. It is an effective tool. And but you know, the Chinese aren't gods of the internet like we are. We run most of the internet. The problem really is the influence leftist politics has had on Silicon Valley, and some of it's just money. It's just straight up money. It's just these guys see money in leftist politics right now. They're being wooed by everybody in Southern California, which is, you know, rapidly deteriorating into a failed state. So getting back to Donald Trump, why should he get the Nobel Peace Prize? Well, the big news is today he has helped usher in a peace accord normalizing diplomatic relations between the United Arab Emirates and Israel. And this is a huge thing. It's a huge thing. So basically you have a country in the Middle East, an Arab country in the Middle East, that said, okay, we're okay with Israel. We're okay. And we have normal diplomatic relationships with them. That is a huge step, because this could start, you know, as things deteriorate, sometimes they cascade down. It is also true of the opposite. If you can spiral down, you can also spiral up. So if UAE is okay to normalize diplomatic relations with Israel, some of the other smaller Middle Eastern countries will also start to look towards, well, if they did it, and we could certainly use the money, maybe we should do it too. Maybe they're not so bad. And once that door's open a crack, just takes a little more effort. It takes less and less effort to open it more and more. So this could be the beginning of peace in the Middle East. I mean, if Israel can make peace, UAE, they did not like Israel for a long time. I mean, they have a long history of very hostile relations. So the fact that they're being brought together, I mean, it may be that, I mean, Trump has a really good relationship with the Saudis. Let's be honest. This could be a precursor to the Saudis signing a similar deal. It may be too soon for them, you know, politically at home. That may not work for them. But certainly the tensions being ratcheted down in other places in the Middle East, you know, you're not going to get every place right away, but the fact that you got one place at all in the Middle East, this is huge. This is huge. You know, it's just an amazing time. I mean, this is an amazing peace maneuver. So you have that, you have North Korea. You know, I think you would have had a more comprehensive peace deal with Russia had the Democrats not decided on this Russiagate nonsense. I think that's going to be in the works in the not too distant future. I think that's a second term thing. I would have liked to have seen it sooner. You know, and really everything that went down with Iran, they've been kind of quiet. You know, yeah, there's been a little bit of rumblings here and there, but for the most part, they don't rattle the sabers anymore, it seems. Um, so, and look, Donald Trump's record is not stellar. I mean, what he did in Yemen, Soleimani, a few other things he's done, the Syrian thing. But in the long haul, it seems like he's pursuing peace. He's getting our troops out of Germany. He's getting our troops out of Afghanistan. He's close to getting us completely out of Afghanistan. And hopefully the other places along the supply route will also be lifted up. And this is huge. I mean, this is going to cut a lot of cost. If we can close down all the military bases in Afghanistan, all the ones around Iran, we'll save literally billions of dollars. And those troops will no longer be in danger, which is a huge thing, too. You have to understand, I followed this stuff for years, and you read report after report of just, people getting blown up by IEDs. You read about troops, part of the horribleness of the whole Afghanistan occupation is just that they send people out to patrol, and all they do is get shot at and then risk an IED. Some of them wouldn't do the patrols. They would literally drive out of the base and then go hide for hours and report in as if they were patrolling, and then just come back when it was time to come back. And that's no good either, because, they're not patrolling when they're expected to patrol, and, that could cascade into other problems. It's really not good to be occupying another country. We're not doing any good in Afghanistan. Afghanistan's not changing, and the moment we leave, the Taliban will take it right back over. So hopefully this peace initiative, which also has been pushed forward with the Taliban, is going to hold. It seems to be holding, seems to be doing well. So, I mean, those are three big fronts: North Korea, Afghanistan, and now the UAE, which I didn't even know about. So if Obama gets the Nobel Peace Prize just for the potential of what he might do, certainly Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize for stuff he actually did. That seems at least fair. And not starting any new wars. Coming close. Certainly there was a lot of talk about it, but it didn't happen. And I think we should acknowledge that. And I think that's a strong reason why Donald Trump's doing a good job. I'm just going to say it. The guy's done a good job on the foreign policy. And that, in a lot of respects, is the majority of a president's job. And say what you want about our allies. Our allies are not everything. France, what's France going to do for us these days? Macron's been dealing with like a year and a half worth of riots. Is he really going to step up and I don't know, take over our bases in Kazakhstan so we can leave? No, he's dealing with his own problems. Everybody's dealing with their own problems, and we need to deal with our problems here. So let's bring the troops home. Trump is beginning to accomplish that, and I like where he's going with this. And who knows what's going to happen before the election, but this is a big deal. So congrats to Trump, and congrats to us all. We're this much closer to peace in the world.